Welcome to the Pick Me Up Podcast Unscripted, brought to you by CDI College, the training you need for the career you want. I'm Jennifer Lee, and join me for a monthly conversation where we unravel the myths of mental health with our expert guests. Get ready for a fun and informative deep dive into many topics that are currently on our minds. Let's get started. It's Jennifer Lee, and welcome back to another episode of CDI College's Pick Me Up podcast. I am looking forward to this topic today because I know in COVID, a lot of us like to dive into the goodies. I know I was like, I'm going to treat myself. I'm at home every day. So it's like, yeah, I'm putting that bag of chips in my car. This is being practical too, because, they warned us. They said, please try to keep your shopping to a minimum. So I was like, I'm going to buy all the snacks in the world because if we're in lockdown, you don't want to have no snacks. So yeah, I just realized that it was very important to me. But all joking aside, of course, we do the Pick Me Up podcast because we want to be aware of mental issues that have always been around or have arisen because of COVID. And of course, that is associated with body image as well. As a lot of you know, I've been a little bit vocal about it, but a few years ago, I was in a bus accident. And that's kind of when I started my mental health journey. And it's the first time that I really experienced anxiety. And lately, I've had a lot more anxiety. And the first thing that I decide to do is go get a piece of cake, something to make myself feel really good, which, I'm not going to lie. I like doing it, but I know that there's definitely an association with that. So that's why I was really excited to talk to my next guest. Her name is Diana. And of course, we are going to dive right in and figure out who she is. I know that she is a senior lecturer at SFU. She has a wonderful YouTube channel about body positivity and all things about body image and how we as a society can really, we're getting a bit better, I've noticed during COVID. And when I flick on the commercials and stuff and see different body shapes for men and women in all shapes and sizes. So I definitely think we're getting better as a society around body image positivity, but we could do better. And that's why we want to have a deeper dive with Deanna. And of course, holidays are coming up. And who doesn't love eating a lot of gingerbread men? I do. And it's a stressful time. So let's talk to Deanna. Thank you so much. Welcome. How are you?
I'm really well. Thanks for having me, Jen. I'm really excited to be here. We need to talk more about this stuff. So it's an honor to have this platform to chat more.
Yeah, and I'm really glad that, CDI College has this platform to talk about all different things surrounding mental health, because mental health is not just about one thing. As we're learning through this podcast, it's many different facets of your life, and eating is a big one. Like I said, I ate cake last week because I had a really bad bout of anxiety, which, it's okay to do once in a while, but it's good to be aware of it, that's probably not normal.
who's who's to say what normal is, though? As one
True.
thing to say to that. One thing I wanted to say about what you just said is we're sometimes so hard on ourselves for seeking out food, for dealing with things we're going through, but we also have to be food is giving us something in that moment. There's an uncomfortable feeling that we have in our body, and it is a coping mechanism. Perhaps there's healthier ones out there, but I think we sometimes villainize food for taking this role in our lives. I've kind of shifted my thinking a little bit more with that too, that it's giving us a bit of release in that moment. We don't want it to go overboard, of course, but I think there's a level of self-compassion that's needed in those moments too, because it's very human of us to seek out something that's inherently rewarding when we're not feeling so good. So just you're forgiven, I think is what I want to offer there.
Thank you. I feel a lot better about all those treats that I ate last week then, so we're good. Um, well, let's dive into it. How did you get to where you are, and why is this such a passion project of yours? Because like I said, I watch your YouTube video and I think all of them are amazing. I really related to a lot of what you're saying. And again, I don't think it doesn't matter what shape or size you are, whatever you're saying relates to a lot of different people in different ways.
hmm So, as you mentioned, my background is I'm a teacher, I'm a senior lecturer, and I was part of me getting into that path was really trying to heal my own body issues. If I'm being honest, I used education as a way to fix my struggles with my body. I've always been larger. I was obese as a teenager and have dealt with various couple different types of eating disorders in the past. And I really thought that like science was the way to fix all my body issues. And I just had to find the trick. I just had to find the right diet. I just had to find this thing. And I notice in my students that happens a lot too, where they're like looking for the perfect diet to heal all their body issues, and that really shifted my perspective a lot into I teach a first year health class and we talk about how health is complete physical, mental, and social well-being. We're so good at focusing on the physical, but the mental part is such a big aspect of that as well. So, yeah, sure, there is probably a diet that works for your body best and gets you into the best place, but like, how do you preserve your mental well-being through that? How do you still like yourself through that? How do you not feel like down on whatever because you have to, eat clean all the time? So, I kind of came from this, it's been really selfish education where I'm like, how do I fix myself through my education? But it brought me back to mental health, quite honestly, because knowing the tools for like how your body works best, that's great. But are you able to do that? Are you able to have the motivation to do that? Are you able to have the self-love to forgive yourself when you eat that piece of cake? Right. And sometimes the things that are going on in our brains, they actually make our issues with food harder. So that's really been this shift back to like, we need mental health in the conversation. We can't just focus on what's the best diet, what's the best exercise plan and all that stuff. Like what's the best state for ourselves where we're eating well and we're exercising, sure, but like our mental health is okay too. So that's kind of been my path. And that's why I've like advocate so much for mental well-being, like for students in general. But I think it's one of the conversations that's really been missing from this whole discussion about weight and bodies, right? Where's our mental health in that? Because there's a lot of people that are skinny that get there through avenues that really mess with your mind, and that doesn't necessarily mean you're happy. Once you get to that, let's say, quote unquote, skinny, fit, or whatever place, can you be there and still be mentally well? So we need this in the conversation, and it's not enough in the conversation. So that's kind of how my career path has led me to these kind of conversations.
I think you touched on something in there. Like you talk a lot to students. Of course, we're a college podcast. And this is something that a lot of people don't realize is when you're first starting off as a student, either it be a college, a technical college, university, a lot of us students don't have a lot of money and you're going to school all the time. So diet is not actually really that healthy for a lot of students. Like I know kids were making tomato soup with ketchup and milk together.
My goodness.
That's the cringy part. But it's true. A lot of kids struggle and they're struggling to get the proper nutrition because they always put in their heads too, like if you don't have the proper nutrition, you can't learn. And then you have the other stresses of getting good grades or you're trying to pay your rent on top of it if it's the first time you've moved out and maybe you're paying your tuition. And there's a lot going on. So what do you usually suggest to your students during like the stressful time of school?
I know, and and you brought up so many different things, and like it's really an individualization thing because like certain people have more money, certain people have more access to fresh fruits and vegetables and others don't. So I think you always need to work with where you're starting from, right? And you're not going to get it perfect, and you don't have to figure out your perfect diet and follow your perfect diet for the rest of your life perfectly. Right? So uh, it's a tough one, but I would really recommend for students to, stick with the staples, find foods that they like that are fit into the basic healthy category. And the one healthy category that I'm always pushed for is like whole foods, just like real foods, like fruits and vegetables. Yay. We don't eat enough of that. A lot of students eat a lot of prepackaged foods because it's easy and it's convenient. But are there some foods that you can pick up from the grocery store for cheap that you like, right? And that you can just always have around you so you have that option. A lot of the reasons why I remember when I was a student, why I would eat such crap is because you're so busy doing everything else that food becomes an afterthought, right? So it is a bit of intention setting. It is a bit about priority setting as well, of knowing like, no, I feel better when I eat better. So this is something that I want to think about. These are the foods that I, let's say, want to eat this week, or I want to stock my fridge with. This is how I want to meal plan. This is what I'm going to do when I go to the cafeteria. These are the foods that I feel comfortable eating and that feel good in my body. So again, there's no perfect formula for each person, but you have to kind of consider your variables and not, I think one thing I would suggest is not waiting till you're super stressed and busy to decide on what to eat, because you're going to go for the easiest thing. You're going to run to the convenience store. You're going to run to the vending machine because it's easy. So if you can pre-plan things, you can bring things with you, right? It's probably going to save you money, right? And it's going to be, better to manage those things. But I'll admit it's harder as a student.
So another stressful time for students, of course, is exam time. We are gearing up for that because we're getting a little closer to Christmas. And there might be a lot of anxiety this year as well, because some people might not be able to go home because of COVID restrictions, get to see their family, especially if they live internationally. So what are your tips and tricks for kind of keeping that healthy eating style? Because I know when I was a student and I had an exam, I was like, yes, bring on the gummy bears, bring on the chocolate. I deserve it. Like, which you do. School is hard. So I'm a big advocate of like, treat yourself. But I guess we have to treat ourselves in moderation.
Yeah. So again, nothing's going to be perfect and everything's going to work a little bit differently for everyone. But like, we all know how we are. We've all done exams before, right? No matter what stage of your career you're in, you've done exams before, your patterns. So it's a good thing, like before exams start, to like, what patterns do I fall into typically with exams? Do I like buy 5 Coca-Colas and line them up on my desk and, pound those in some jelly beans or whatever else? Like they always say, failing to plan is planning to fail. I don't love that term, but it's a bit of that. Like, you need to look at how you've been in the past and how can you do things differently, right? So instead of, again, waiting to the last moment to go eat and grabbing whatever's in front of you, bringing stuff with you, knowing that you're going to be studying. So get excited about it. Like, what are my snack foods? What are the ones that I'm going to put beside me? And have that, like, not like, I have to eat healthy, but like put foods you love close to you, right? So when you are going through that exam period, it's easier to grab for those. We often grab for the less healthy stuff because we're in a rush, we're stressed, and we just want to make the quickest decision because we're sick of making decisions, right? So I'm always a fan of, and I don't always do this properly, but I'm always a fan of being nice to your future self. Like your future, what your future self is going to go through during exam time. So can you be nice to that person and set that person up for success? So it's more to it than that, but that's some tips on that track.
That's great. I want to move over to your website now, and I want to read a little excerpt that really inspired me. And it says, "Spending your life stressing about your body is keeping you small, my love. You deserve the joy that comes from feeling confident in your body and at peace with your mind. You deserve to walk into any room and feel like you belong there. You deserve to look in the mirror and have kind things to say to the person looking back at you." What does that statement mean to you? And what made you think, hey, I need to put this on my website? Like, what inspired you?
I think part, again, of maybe selfish reasons, a part of me is talking to my former self. Part of me is talking to all those young women, young men, not even young, like all ages, who have spent their life shrinking themselves because of the way their body looks. And not just because of the way their body looks, but how their body looks in comparison to the ideal we think we have in this society. And this obsession with eating, this obsession with our bodies, it stops us from going into a room feeling just good, feeling like we belong there. I'm someone that I used to really like, if I was in a room full of attractive people, I'd be like, well, I can't talk to anyone because I'm not attractive enough. And when we heal this relationship with ourselves and with our body, and we realize that our body is the least interesting thing about us, you know, we can like open the doors for us to shine a little bit more. And something else that comes up in that quote a lot, and that was definitely done on purpose, is the word deserve. Because I think we forget that we deserve to feel good, that we deserve to feel joyful in our bodies. It's not just the super hot, thin, whatever people that deserve to enjoy their lives. That's ridiculous. I believe, if you talk to psychologists, the more you dig under issues and you get to the bottom of issues, one of the big ones that's at the bottom of a lot of our things is self-worth. And I believe that we are fundamentally worthy, and we're fundamentally worthy of being in any room, right? And yes, if your body is larger, you might not feel that way, right? Or you think that your body is larger, or it doesn't look a certain way, or your color is different, or your height is different, or you're older. We tell ourselves that only certain people deserve to feel great. Only certain people deserve their promotion, only certain people, but it's crap. And when we heal this relationship with our body and our mind, and we're like, this is my body and here I am, there's joy in that. We take away some of that. We spend so much space in our brain obsessing about our size. What could we devote that space to instead?
And when you were saying that, I also think it doesn't matter what shape or size you are. I think we all, like, in all honesty, I think we all have things that we don't particularly like about our bodies. And for me, yes, I am a smaller person, but my calves are apparently not the normal size in society. And I remember last year I was trying to get boots, and like the lady boot shamed me at the place. Like maybe you need to go somewhere else for wider boots. And I was like, I'm like, oh, you just feel
Yeah.
that, and you're like, it's hard because we all deal with this, and you're like, that's what society says, that I need to fit in that boot, but that boot or that skinny jeans are not a realistic pant. I don't know who buys them, because I don't think anybody can put their leg through that skinny pant. I sure can't. But it's something I can't change about myself either. Like I bike ride, so it's muscle. They'll never be the size to fit into that boot or skinny pant. And you got to learn to be like, well, how do I rock these calves, right?
First of all, I'm also someone with big calves. I call them Bedoya calves. They are definitely genetic and they're wonderful, I would say, as I'm sure yours are. But what you brought up there too is that, like, you make a really good point that as much as you like can try to celebrate yourself and feel good in your body, there are messages out there that mess with us, even if like the person doesn't mean anything by it. Sometimes we go, and shopping is one of the hardest things for men and women, right? You walk into a store, you're like, it's all looks so beautiful, but a lot of that stuff is made for certain sizes, and you try certain things on, and you start to, you can't stop the script sometimes from going and saying, well, my, my calf doesn't fit into this boot. And then where do we go next? Sometimes I won't put words in your mouth, but if that was me, I would say my calves are too big. I'm fat. I'm ugly. I'm never gonna, my old script would be, I'm never gonna find love. Like, it's funny how we jump from one thing to another with something as like benign as these boots don't fit my leg because they're made for someone else's leg. But it's hard. It's one of the hardest things about celebrating your body is knowing that the messages out there are gonna come up on that. They're still gonna push you.
Clothing is just an unrealistic expectation for many shapes and sizes, because like you said, the clothing is designed a certain way. And so I know a lot of people that are smaller and they don't fit into it. There's a lot of people that are maybe a little bit more voluptuous and they don't fit into it. So clothing really fits like a rare size. And I think that's the thing. Once I talk to my girlfriends and guy friends, it's like we're all dealing with these similar issues. We all have our unique journey, and I'm not taking that away from anybody. But we all have that dialogue in our head. And it's so interesting to me because I think it is a Western culture thing, because while researching this, of course, there's many other cultures around the world that accept bigger body types. They love hips, they love curves, because it means fertility and babies and healthiness. Like they're healthy, like they don't look sickly. So I think it's like, how do we take these destructive norms that we've created in the Western culture, continue to move on? Like I said, I do think it's changing a little bit, because I recently saw a jean commercial with a girl from SNL, and she's got a beautiful, voluptuous body. And she's there dancing with other women in all shapes and sizes, a pear shape. Like, and it was nice to see because, hey, like I said, jeans are a whole other issue. I am definitely a pear shape. I have a little bit of in the bottom.
Amazing. No, clothing is hard, and the message is out there. I'll be honest with you, and that's why one of the like biggest messages I have is that like we need to change society, but it starts with ourselves too. And I'm not saying that it's easy. I'm not saying that it's easy. I went shopping recently, and the sales girl brought me all this kind of stuff, and a third of it fit. So how do we in that moment stand in our power? Right? How do we in that moment still, like, when those thoughts jump to I'm not attractive enough, I'm too big, I'm ugly, whatever else, because that's just the way it's been integrated. That's how your brain works sometimes. You believe the things you keep telling yourself. How do you in that moment, like, tell yourself something different? Break the script. How do you take a pause? And so when I when I was trying on clothes the other day for my birthday, for my 40th birthday, I was like, I'm gonna get all new clothes. It's gonna be so great. And it was hard mentally in that change room to like be brought things that would have fit me 5 years ago and they don't fit me anymore. And in that moment, it's just like I'm exercising, I'm eating well. And even if I wasn't, I'm still valuable. This doesn't fit me, but that doesn't mean there's something wrong with me. You know what I mean? This doesn't mean that there's something else there is something else that's going to fit me. And this isn't a judgment about me as a human being. I think that's part of what we need to walk away from, is that thinking that however our body is lessens our value as a human. Right. But it takes a lot of mental work, and it takes a lot of awareness in the moment. And self-love, it comes from self-love too, where you're just like, I'm going to take care of you. You're having a bad moment, and I'm going to take care of you and like guide you through this moment to yourself.
Because we really do have to love ourselves, because at the end of the day, you can change certain things about yourself, but if you don't love yourself, like you were saying earlier, even if you do lose weight and you become skinnier, but you don't have that love for yourself, it's not going to make you happy either. And so it's just like people that get into exercise too. Like maybe you'll be healthier and stuff, but if you're not loving yourself while exercising or loving the exercise that you do, you're just going to be resentful. Like, oh, well, I have to go do this because society says I have to go to the gym or whatever. And you should be doing it because I feel better. Like, I feel like my breathing is better or whatever. Like, I know for the longest time, I've had friends that are runners. I'm not a running fan. And I was like, I don't understand how they get up every day and run, and they're addicted to it and they love it. And then COVID hit, and I took the bike out because I moved right beside trails, and now I bike every single day for the last 2 years, and I love it, like love it. And and it has nothing to do with my body. I do feel a lot better, and I like the fact that I don't feel like I'm dying every time I get on the bike. But it just makes me feel good mentally to get out there. And so, what is your suggestion for people that maybe want to try something new? Um, that does reflect either their mental health or their body, just getting healthier in general.
Sometimes again, we like look outside of ourselves for the answer, right? We're like, oh, she's running, I need to run. He lost weight by going to, I don't know, Orange Theory, I should go to Orange Theory. Right. But one trick that could actually be helpful is like looking back at what did you enjoy doing as a kid? Like, is there something, there's clues in our childhood. There's a lot of clues in our childhood. But is there something that you really enjoy doing that you just want to try out? And can you try something out even knowing that it might not go well? Because I think sometimes we try, like, let's say you pulled out your bike and you didn't like it, right? You didn't enjoy doing it. Do we just throw our hands up and say, I suck at exercise, or this isn't good for me, right? Or is it just you haven't found the right thing for you? I think sometimes the messages out there, again, there's lots of messages out there I don't like, but that like you have to go to the gym and you have to run X minutes a day. You have to bike X minutes a day. You have to do what your body wants to do. For some people, gentle movement works better. For some people, it's yoga. For some people, it's walking. But like your body probably has something that it's like dying to do that's going to feel so good while you do it. Right. And you brought up a great point that it's not just about like how your body's going to look in 3 months to a year. It's also about like, how do I feel right now? And how do I feel afterwards? I did a workout this week. Oh my God. I haven't done this kind of workout, strength training workout in a while. And I left it. I'm like, I felt freaking amazing for the rest of the day. We don't focus on that feeling. We focus on the
Result.
future,
We want the
the
result.
result.
Yeah.
But then we're never happy because it's always like the result is in the future. And it's like, okay, well, when I get the result, then I'll feel happy. right? And this is something that really compromises our mental health too, is we always think that happiness and joy and all these things are at this future later date, once whatever, right? But when we focus on like feeling good now and showing up unapologetically as we are right now, joy is here with us all the time. It's like part of my spiritual beliefs, but it's within us all the time, right? So how do we tap into that joy and not just think that it's in the future? Because it's not. It's really not. A lot of people, they lose weight and they're not any happier.
We should do another topic another time about the result, because like you said, is the thing, it's like we're always going for result, and like you said, the result doesn't usually always make us happy. We never can live in the moment. I do it myself, but when you do stick long enough, something like biking, like I did notice positive changes in my health and in my body, which did make me feel good. And so but I did it a long time because I like doing it. And I think that's the thing, is like, if we can get to that point, then eventually you will get the result, but you have to love doing it. So the workplace has changed a lot. Of course, a lot of people are working like I am right now from home. A lot of people might not enjoy the fact that a lot of their meetings are on Zoom because, the camera is not always that flattering to all of us. I don't always necessarily love being on the camera, especially for work meetings. And of course, some of us are going back in the office. So, how do we encourage positivity in the workplace? Because a lot of us might also, if we're heading back, feel a little self conscious because, like myself, maybe my diet has not been super healthy during COVID.
Yeah. and I'm going to go back to this kind of same answer, which is it starts with us. It always starts with us, unfortunately. We always think that we can change the world by changing other people, but we have to change ourselves and change our own vibrations too, right? So part of the beginning of that is like being accepting and just like loving with yourself, even if your body has changed, because it's changed and so many other people's bodies have changed. And one thing we need to be careful of is how we judge other people for how their bodies have changed too, because we can't help it. We're judgmental people. Well, that's humanities. We're judgy, right? We see other people and we notice things about their appearance right away, and then we make associations in our brain. So as I kind of keep talking about, we want to like catch those things and see like, oh, like you can't help it. You see someone and you're like, oh, she's gained weight, right? You see it. It's a statement, but then we add a value judgment on that, right? Then we say, oh, look at her, right? Like, oh, I haven't gained that much weight. We make these judgments to other people because we're also kind of judging ourselves in the process, right? So part of changing this mentality around, our bodies and in whatever setting is like, it's self-compassion and it's exterior compassion, right? And just, again, getting back to the fact that no one's worth is based on their body. We are fundamentally worthy. I fully believe that. And no matter how your body's changed or how anyone else's body's changed, that doesn't change their soul, if you will. That doesn't change their mind, if you will. Right? So the answers I keep coming back to is we got to start with our own stuff and like face our own stuff too, and our own judgments, because we are judgmental.
And another judgment that I think we focus on, and I love what you say in your videos, is like labeling food as bad and labeling food as good. And I do that all the time. Well, that's a good food, so I should be eating that. Or that's a bad food, so I shouldn't. Like every time I eat a chocolate bar, I associate it with bad. I ate a whole bunch of those mini Halloween chocolate bars too, which are delicious, but I shame myself for it afterwards. How do we get around naming food as good and bad? Because maybe not the really sugary, high processed foods, but there are, more healthier foods that do have good qualities and bad qualities to them too. Like an avocado, you always hear it's good but bad.
Yeah, yeah. And I think maybe the like the nuance that I was trying to stress in the video is the word good and bad. Because good and bad, they're more than healthy versus unhealthy, right? Healthy versus unhealthy, there's more of just like it's like a fact, you would say, about a food. Like some are more nutrient dense than others. But with good and bad, there's a value judgment. It's like saying this food is good and this food is bad, and it is better or worse, and there's like a value to that. And the issue with it is, and I am definitely at fault of this and I still do it, but I used to do it a lot more, is when we keep saying food is bad and we eat a lot of bad food, then like the next jump in our brains is if I'm eating bad food, that means I might be bad, right? When I'm eating good, then I'm good. And again, it's your worth is fluctuating with your diet. Your worth is fluctuating with your body. So I think it depends on the person. Some people can, call foods good and bad and not lead to a moral judgment on ourselves. But there are foods that are, yes, objectively healthier than others, sure. But I think we need to get away from the value judgment, because the value judgment is one thing that can really promote eating disorders. It can promote disordered eating, and it can promote a lot of those negative mental health side effects to diets like a lot of us have. So this is something I work on a lot. And I'll be honest with you, when I used to, back like 15 years ago when I started teaching nutrition, I would do that. I would say good foods versus bad foods, and it's just a change in language so I can like stop the judgment part of that, right? Because judgment, shame, and guilt are like right beside them, right? And shame and guilt keep us stuck, and they often promote eating disorders as well. So we got to be careful with those.
Language is so important in 2021 as we're learning. And I think it's important to get rid of this language of skinny, fat, good, bad. There's a whole bunch of them, and just celebrate ourselves. I know it sounds cliche, but that's really what we need to do. And that's why it's been so lovely to talk to you. If people want to find you, how can they? Tell them about your wonderful YouTube channel before we head on out here.
Absolutely. So dianabedoya.com. I am in the process of creating some awesome courses for people to learn more about nutrition and their bodies. YouTube channel, if you just YouTube Diana Bedoya, you will find me. It's easy to find. And then there's my Instagram, which is the Diana Bedoya. So those are all avenues to reach out to me. And it's been so fun, Jen. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And of course, if you love listening to Deanna and love our conversation, you want to check out the CDI College website, cdicollege.ca. They have tons of programs. Right now, they have many healthcare programs. And one of them, of course, is the social worker program, but they have many different areas. So please check them out, because they will have a program for you. So thanks again, Deanna, for coming onto the Pick Me Up podcast, brought to you by CDI College. And of course, we'll talk to you next month. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Pick Me Up podcast Unscripted, brought to you by CDI College, the training you need for the career you want. Make sure to continue the conversation by following us on our social media pages. Also subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss any episodes. And for more information about CDI College, check out our website, cdicollege.ca. Talk to you next time.